we had our first call, and like an introduction call, and we explored the idea of what this was, and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, all right, man, like, I'm going away this weekend. Just give me a few days to think about it. I'm actually going to download festival. And Tom went, oh, I'm DJing there. I was like, what? And then the day after, randomly,
I saw you in the
we
VIP.
actually met.
Yeah.
This is the weirdest thing.
Yeah, it's mad.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Pinchard, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure, mate. It's nice to have you here. I am honoured. It's I won't say a random guest, but a lot of ours are usually to do with mountain bike industry, two-wheel sport, action sports. But I guess for context, I met you last year. I think the technical term was business coach.
Technical term,
business coach. I think you're more than that, which we'll get into. And after speaking to you, I was like, you know what, Tom would be a really nice guest on the podcast. We've got some cool things we can talk about, especially to do with building communities and mental health and stuff like that, which is a lot of the time what we can discuss and talk about, especially the community side of what we do, mountain biking and whatnot. So I was keen to bring you on here and have a bit of a interesting deep dive into you, your background, and anything and everything around that. I think, though, the best way to start would be for you just to give a overview of what you currently do, and then we'll unpack it. Is that cool?
Perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect.
But yeah,
Okay.
appreciate you doing this.
I am a coach.
Yeah.
You call me a business coach. I just call myself a coach. There's lots of different types of coaches and life coaches, exec coaches, performance coaches, voice coaches,
Riding coaches.
I mean, yeah, the broad spectrum of it. I think it's always helpful. I always give context, essentially, what is a coach? Because I think as the world progresses, you'll see more and more coaches.
Okay.
If anybody's on LinkedIn and stuff, you'll probably start seeing all this sort of stuff. I am a product of coaching, so I actually hired a coach 10 years ago. So I'm a bit of an evangelist for coaching.
Okay.
But when I first entered the world of coaching, or when I first hired a coach, I was quite pessimistic and cynical about it. I'm quite British about it. Being, what is this? Is it a bit of is it BS? Is there any grounds to it? So anyway, I always start with what essentially it is, just to give context, because it's important to understand what actually connects all these different types of coaches.
Yeah.
Because sports coaching and all that sort of stuff comes into my world as well. So let's say there's a tree, and on that tree there are loads of branches, and coaching, or me as a coach, is one of those branches. Other branches of that tree, hypnotherapy, mentoring, counseling, doulas, all sorts of interesting professions around helping and supporting people. And then probably at the base or the root of that tree is maybe where we all come from in some sort of factor, which is therapy. I think how we're talking about therapy now is a lot more open and a lot more accepting than it was even, say, 15 years ago. Some people, if they're in therapy, are often holding it with a bit of a badge of honor, being I'm working on myself, and that's amazing. But there's quite a bit of a difference between, say, me and a therapist. If you go and see a therapist, fundamentally what they are dealing with is helping that person with understanding in their present, and they do that by going into the past. Childhood, family, environment, all that fun stuff. And coaching probably spawned out of a number of psychotherapists starting to change the way they wanted to work with people and help people. So what does that mean? What the undercurrent of coaching and what a number of these psychotherapists in the 50s and 60s started to play around with how they work with people was the fundamental idea that us human beings, we have autonomy and choice, and that from any moment we can change everything.
Okay.
So we can basically change our lives tomorrow if we want to. And there's loads of, in everybody's life, there is an example where we were going through life in a way and then something happened and then everything changed. Love is probably like the best example of that. You're going along in life and then you meet somebody in a bar, wherever that may be, and then suddenly that person is your life and then everything changes.
Yeah.
So that was like the undercurrent theory of essentially that us human beings, we have choice and autonomy. And that's the bedrock of what coaching is, which is essentially anybody I work with, I'm not interested in their past, I'm interested in their future. So their tomorrows, Christmas this year, 2028, 2030, 2035. And that's essentially what connects all of us coaches, is it's all future focused.
Okay.
So in turn, I want everybody that I work with to be proactive and intentional in the now. Now, the challenge is that as we get older, we become more reactive. So that's basically going with the flow, of which everybody can like relate to at different points in their life, where we've essentially just... that was a big part of my life, and probably how I got into coaching was I was fairly... surfer-like in my attitude, being like, whatever, man, whatever happens, whatever comes my way, it's meant to be. If it's not meant to be, just kind of go with the flow.
Yep.
And that was probably more of a defense mechanism than it was an actual like realistic version or authentic version of myself. So there were loads of things that I probably actually really wanted, especially earlier on in life, that I didn't really go for, because I didn't really put any effort or time into working out whether that's something that I wanted to do.
Really wanted, yeah.
Really wanted. And so I've done lots of different things in my life, and I've had loads of great experiences. But it's probably only in the last 6-7 years that I've been fully intentional, because I actually know what I want.
Yeah.
I'm able to identify that, and I'm able to identify sort of what I would like my future to look like and all that sort of stuff. But that is essentially what coaching is. It's about helping people move forward. It's about switching the way that we exist in the present, and to kind of go towards something. I think the challenge with all of us is, or what my feeling is about human beings, if we want something or identify something that we want to get to, I think we get there as humans.
Okay.
And again, I think that everybody has got an example of that in their lives at various different points. And it could be when we were like a teen and we wanted to buy, I don't know, our first mountain bike or something, you know, and that we went and we worked in spa, or we worked as like a waiter or a waitress, and we basically went and be able to buy that thing, or that first like festival ticket to Reading and Leeds, and all. Everybody has examples of that. It's just that as we get older, we lose that a bit, and also the way we think about the world becomes a bit more existential in nature. When we're younger, we're more driven by material things, and they're easier to try and get because it's quite simplistic. Oh, I need X amount of money, so I either just need to work a bit more hours in my day job and all that sort of stuff. But as we get older, they become our feelings about what the world is. A lot of the time, we can actually have a lot of those things. We can go on holiday, or we can buy our favorite record, or we can like buy a new bike, or whatever that may be. And so sometimes the questions are a little bit bigger, which is a bit like, what do I want life to look and feel like? What do I want my career to look like?
Yeah. How
do I want to work? How do I want to be? How do I want to love? So it can get like quite big and nice and juicy. And the key is to switch that at key points in life. So we're actually going towards something and excited about it and excited about life. What we've got to be cautious of as we get older is we do get more fearful. You know, when we're younger,
scared of change, stuff like that.
Yeah, but when we're younger, and I'm a dad as well of a young person, like when we're younger, we don't get that much choice. We're basically put in uncertain circumstances constantly. You know, from the minute we sort of start nursery or school, like our parents and the system and teachers and all that sort of stuff are basically like, right, you're going to play school and now it's time to do maths, put your shoes on, take your shoes off, eat all your food, stop eating all your food, right, you're going to go and learn how to play like football. And, you know, you're basically put in situations where we're dealing with this concept of uncertainty all the time. So actually when we're younger, we're quite resilient to new things because we're basically just constantly put in these situations. I think it's really, and that's a great thing to happen. But then as we get older and we sort of leave home and go to uni and then enter the workforce or whatever that may be, it's actually, we slowly stop doing new things. And so the new things actually are things that we kind of get used to. You know, the first time you see a waterfall in Thailand, you're like, oh my God. But if you see that 4 or 5 times, it's more certain. So it doesn't have that quite wow factor. So then we have to hunt for, my feeling is, and what I'm trying to do with everybody I work with is to try and create new things all the time to stretch discomfort. I mean, I can't imagine you don't get better at biking by doing the same thing, right? You basically have to jump higher, push it all the time, and push your brain to basically find a different way around what uncertainty is. Is that right?
I'd say so. Yeah, I'd say so. I think for me it's changed a lot over the years as I've got older. It kind of relates back to like the risk thing and the change thing and all that sort of stuff. You know, I don't push it as hard as I definitely used to. I don't know if it's the same for you, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll repeat the same thing over and over again for sure and try and get it better and better. Yeah. And then just the gains are smaller, so it becomes more refined. I think from the outside it just looks like stupid and just the same thing over and over again. But
there is nuances in there that you're trying to change.
Yeah. And like I think now I learn, I'm not willing to say that I'm not getting better. It's in a very, very small little things, and I still focus and obsess over tiny things. And that's fine. It's not as exciting. Maybe from the outside, like the difference wouldn't be as exciting. I guess. You know, it's not like new and shiny. And like a backflip. You're doing like a tiny little thing, carrying speed out of a turn, or like. I mean, this almost sounds ridiculous, but certainly it's captivated me for a massive part of my life, and probably a lot of our listeners actually. So,
wait, you think that sounds ridiculous to me?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going around the same corners I'm literally going in the woods around the same corners, and I'm getting something extra out of it, just tiny bits, thinking about them.
But I think most people can relate to that, even if you, like I remember playing like snowboarding games on the PS1, like at Christmas with all my mates and stuff like that, where we had loads of time, and you would try and, you know, even just on a gaming element. That's a
good way of looking at it.
And you
add a grab.
And you would be in competition, and you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
So then it becomes, I think it works towards like certain, like, especially how boys think. I think boys are particularly focused on certain things. And if it's linked to passion, sort of time can disappear and become quite obsessive over those like particular things. So I think that's how it works. I think there's a reason why when we're in our late teens and early 20s, we really do, especially when we enter, say, any sort of extreme sports, we really do have like massive gains, because we don't have that much like, technically failure. We don't really know, and also we're coming out of a situation where we're used to being uncertain all the time, which is why we become more fearful, because we're aware of our bodies. We've seen a lot of stuff as well. We've seen pain or experienced pain more, and it's just a natural recurrence that then we're a bit like, we might second guess if we're about to do something. And it's trying to make sure that it doesn't like, that's not to say you shouldn't stop or anything like that, but it's to make sure that any decision you're making is from intent and proactiveness, whether to stop, give something up, start something, instead of it being a reactive thing or a fear-based thing without enough like context in the whole world.
I do understand what you mean. Like you get to a certain age and something does change, doesn't it? Like you go like full child mind, everything exciting, instant reward. It changes somehow. Why does it change somehow? You think because you've seen the things, you know what to expect. Is that what you mean?
So I think the human brain, its kryptonite is uncertainty. All of us have that's the brain's kryptonite is uncertainty, and uncertainty is different for every human being. There's a huge part, the big part of our brains loves sort of routine, predictability, and comfort. Loves that. And in situations where there's lots and lots of uncertainty, we'll try and go back to situations that are familiar. I don't know, a simple, when you're really ill and you're in bed for days with flu and you think you're never going to get better, you end up actually then watching the things that you used to watch with when you were like 14, 15, 16. That could be like favorite movies, episodes of like comfort things, because you don't really know how you're going to get better, and the feeling of being like super ill and feverish is just so disconcerting. And so most of my challenge with people is to basically pull apart and rewire the concept of uncertainty. Because once the brain can create a pathway, it could be like a psychological, like philosophical pathway around doing something new, or an acceptance of one of three ways a particular thing might do, then basically that part of our brain, which is pure negativity, it is basically delivering messages of don't do it, you're not good enough, you're going to make a mistake, you're going to look foolish, all those things. Things like imposter syndrome is normally things just triggered by a huge amount of uncertainty in a situation. And I think as we get older, we have just seen a lot and experienced a lot. And so if you've been doing something for a long time, you know a lot about it all the time. So it becomes like quite a comfort thing. And a predictable thing. And the challenge is, and I imagine with all the athletes who have sat in this seat, it's constantly working about how to reignite passion and to reignite creativity in like riding or tricks or whatever that may be. And then finding new ways to think about how to push self with all the knowledge of what it feels like to break a bone, to finish last, to whatever that may be. So I think it's just a natural symptom of getting older, is that we've just seen a lot, and we've seen friends get hurt and all that sort of stuff. It's a bit like, like our first love, in our 20s or our teens. And it ends in just like pure heartbreak and tears, and someone's cheated on somebody, and it's just like, ugh, and just like rips you apart. The hope is that doesn't define the next relationship, that you can basically go into the next relationship with loads and loads of knowledge and excitement about. But some people can't. Some people are so destroyed by that first experience.
So is it like an example? Is that what you mean? When you say like rewire, is it like you need to be given an example almost of how it could work out? So that example.
Yeah, I think there's two ways. So this is essentially this idea of belief systems. So belief systems is this, so it's kind of how our brains work. There are two types of belief systems, a thing called empowering beliefs, a thing called limiting beliefs. Empowering beliefs are essentially beliefs or stories about self or our world that basically push us forward. I am a good communicator. I am a good rider. Let's give me an example. What do you believe about your riding? You believe you're a good rider, the best, one of the best?
I don't believe I'm the best at many things. But I believe I'm a good rider. Yeah, I've been riding a long time, so
yeah. So if I sat here and was basically just like, "You're a good rider," don't believe you. My feeling is you'd be like, "Hold up, Tom." And what my hope is you would do is you would start to give me examples of why you think or believe that you're a good rider.
Yeah,
and it'll often be quite evidence based, and from your experience and comparison and things that you have done. So that belief in that you're a good rider keeps you moving forward.
I'll be like, dude, I can wheelie like 3 parking spaces. Are you serious? Can't mess with me. I can wheelie 3 parking spaces.
Amazing.
Got like 3 inches bunny hop. Chill.
So that's like,
in fact, maybe I am the best.
Yeah, I might drop the mic.
No, I'm not trying to make anybody feel like egotistical or sort of like showing narcissistic tendencies, but it's coming from a place of like experience and evidence.
Yeah.
I can say that I'm a really, really good coach, and I can then confidently say to myself, or my internal dialogue, I am good because of this, and this, and this. And there's this other thing called the chimp brain, which is the back of our brain, it's our instinctual part of our brain, which is allergic to this concept of uncertainty. And that is all negativity. And so this is basically feeding It's feeding on messaging or interpretations of the world that want you to stop and go back and do familiar and pattern and predictable things. Now, how you defeat limiting... So imposter syndrome is a classic example of limiting beliefs. Another product of limiting beliefs are procrastination, perfectionism. And then what's rooted underneath that are normally like quite gnarly thoughts about self and the world. Yeah, I'm not good enough. Nobody likes me. I never know what to say. I mean, the list could be endless. We all have them. They're not technically real. They're not. Most of them are fictionalized stories to get that person to basically stop doing something.
Yeah.
And so if I'm trying to work on somebody to do something, I've basically got to start looking at essentially what is the internal obstacle to that thing. And there's two ways that you can do it. It's either reinterpreting what that thing is and creating a different feeling around it, a different philosophy. So let's take an example. I'll take me. It's me as an easy example. I've basically inputted loads of... I reflect on my beliefs and why I do certain things, not do certain things all the time. And one of them is I work for myself, and it's probably not my... it hasn't been my natural instinct to maybe be like front and center of attention. Being in pubs and surrounded by loads and loads of people is probably not like my default happy place. Like one-on-ones and stuff like that is happy. But to be an independent business, I know that, you know, people can't buy my services if they don't know I exist. Yeah. And so there's a phrase that I reflect on all the time, which is essentially you'll be judged or you'll be ignored. And that's essentially what we will call like a cultural belief. And I reflect on that all the time, and that's forcing me to basically, when I want to post, when I'm curious about posting something on Instagram, which always makes me feel a bit sick, going on here, coming here, you know, it's very easy. My chimp brain is basically being just like, just stay at home.
Yeah.
Stay at home.
Yeah.
Why do you need this stress? Like, what's everybody going to think about you? What's people going to think about your voice? Your mannerisms, like all this like overwhelming stuff, none of it's real. Like it's all fictionalized stories. But I have to go back to that empowering belief being like, no, Tom, like you want to share what you do. You want to get people excited and curious about asking for help and all that sort of stuff. And so that empowers me. So that's essentially a mindset thing. And then the other option is basically pulling apart real life stuff, which has to be a little bit more evidence-based, which is why I spend so much time on people's futures. Because if I can get people excited about a future, and quite a long-term future, that is the best way to start getting people to tackle doing uncomfortable things in the next like week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And then pulling apart essentially, you know, looking at like the worst case scenario and realizing that's probably realistically not going to happen. And if I can mix in some passion and excitement about that, then the hope is, my feeling is that most people fly. It's just often no one is really asking us like big questions like, what do you want?
Yeah.
You know, like no one's asking us guys like, what do you want? And we might get asked that in a kind of throwaway comment, and if we don't have an answer for that, it's not asked again. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
What do you want? It's a big question. What do you want professionally, personal life, all that sort of stuff? It's a bit like, I don't know what I want, but it's like the most important question.
Yeah.
What's the most common mistake you see then? Because if you see a lot of people and you deal with a lot of people's like problems in how they maybe deal with the world, basically, what's the most common thing, most common problem that you see in people? Is that a shit question? It might be a shit question, but I feel like there must be patterns in what you see.
It's totally not a shit question. It's almost like it's a huge question, and I'm not sure if I can say it's like one thing.
No,
I think I can. I mean, I think for a lot of the part, I think for most of us, we are the obstacle.
Yeah.
Like this, you know, and I think there's slightly different things. There's big cultural issues. In this country, we're pessimistic and cynical as a kind of undercurrent. And I just, it sucks.
Yeah.
I
I think if I could add some context to me and why I found you,
Oh yeah,
that might help, because, you know, I'm from the north of the UK. never invest in myself, barely invest in anything, don't really spend that much money. But last year I was definitely at that point where I just felt out of control. Like I didn't really understand why I was working as hard as I was. I didn't know where it was going. And I think I just had a bit of a, I don't know if the word's existential crisis, but a bit of a like, I just need help just to like figure this out. Because especially I think when you run your own business and maybe things are growing, you just need to know what's going on and understand, maybe just have the tools to deal with it and just stay balanced and on the right track. So I met you through a mutual friend who, I think I put something on my LinkedIn and was like, does anyone offer some sort of like coaching or something? And I got recommended to you. And again, I think that was, I wouldn't say I was pessimistic. You said you were pessimistic about doing it at first, but I was a bit like, oh, I've never spent money on myself to do anything like this. This feels really strange. But, you know, obviously really enjoyed the process, hence why I was sat here. But it did give me the tools, and that like big picture thinking is what I needed. I just needed someone who you don't know, because I think especially guys, we're often stuck in our own little bubble of you only talk to your same mates, and maybe they're not only they're not interested, but they don't know what to ask you, and they don't know how to help you figure these questions out. So for me, I just needed someone external to go, like almost look at your life a little bit and take a, 30,000 foot elevator pitch, look at it and be like, okay, dude, let's figure out where you're going and why you're going there. And it was a huge thing for me. Honestly, it genuinely was, because it just gave me that intention, that purpose, that like, okay, I know what I'm working towards. Whereas I think before you said like been surferish. I've never heard that term, but it's really accurate. Like I was just going along with it. There was no like reason.
Yeah.
So is that a common thing that people would come to you? There's not really a thing, but there's a feeling maybe. And
I think my feeling on life is essentially we're basically characters in our own little movies or our own books, and essentially there's loads of chapters, and sometimes those chapters could be 6 months, sometimes those chapters are 7 years, whatever's going on in our lives and the different stages of life. And the turning of a chapter, or like the turning of a page, you want to be relatively like efficient. But sometimes we get stuck turning a page for years, like years.
Yeah.
And that can manifest like personal or business or career or whatever that may be. And my job is to basically help the turning of that page be a lot more efficient and intentional and quicker. Does that make sense? Like sometimes we play around or we sit on decisions for like a really long time, years, Yeah.
And what would an example of that be? It's just like maybe you want to start a business, or you want to.
Yeah, I think I guess I don't hide the fact that I'm, I haven't worked for anyone for like 15 years. I consider myself probably like an entrepreneur. I don't like that word. Most entrepreneurs are dyslexic and can't spell it, so it's like a mad word to give it. Makes no sense to me. But I would class myself as probably working for myself. I was always like super anti-authority. I came up in like punk and metal music scenes, which is very outsidery, very DIY, do it yourself. And so I sort of had that culture. And so working for somebody never really didn't do so well for me, to be honest. So I think lots of people are curious about working for themselves or side hustles, making money from their skill sets and all that sort of stuff. I'm super pro that.
Right.
So I would probably say like 50% of my clients are trying to do something on their own.
Right.
In like multiple things. That could be an athlete, that could be like starting a product business, that could be trying to work out how you basically sell your knowledge, services.
Yeah.
So that's like a classic one. Flipping careers, starting again. I was basically in marketing and advertising until I was 37, 38 before I went back to uni to get my qualifications to become a coach.
Right.
How did I get into that? There was no intent. I left uni. I went to uni in Nottingham, and then after years in Nottingham,
37.
37 is The the story of me, basically, like professionally speaking, I went to uni in Nottingham. While at uni, I set up a clothing store with my best mate. We had like a high street store in Nottingham and ran that like in my last year of uni and for 3 years after that. And then the kind of like, I outgrew Nottingham and wanted to be in London. I also had this quite a budding DJ career and stuff like that going on as a side hustle. Came down to London, ended up working for The Guardian up until my 30s, and then basically was like, and then built a little marketing agency with some friends and ran that until we were 37, 38. I can't say any of that was intentional.
Right.
It was very, and I don't think that was a problem necessarily, that it wasn't intentional. Like I've had loads of mad experiences over the last 20 years. There's a lot of stories, and the DJ stuff was really big. Built nightclubs. Like I've done like loads of mad stuff because I was literally searching for me.
Yeah.
I was literally searching for like the rooms that I should feel most authentic in. I was searching for like the thing that would get me like really excited about life. And so for 20, I think from the age of like 20 to 38, I was just purely hunting. I didn't realize it at the time, but then it meant that was quite an emotional.
So you weren't intentional then? You're not like, you're not having these conversations in your head like, oh, I'm hunting, I'm still trying to find this thing. You just surf free,
probably
just go with the flow.
Subconsciously,
Yeah.
but maybe that was happening, but it was like super emotional, being more like, I don't like this job anymore, I need something else. And then trying to find the next thing and being quite focused on like money and trying to like, obviously just trying to live and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But there wasn't really any structure to it.
Okay.
It was kind of.
Do you think it needs structure? Now, obviously.
Does it need structure? I think it needs a vision.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know if it needs like a plan. Lots of people have funny feelings about a plan. Like, oh, does it feel like really rigid? And does that mean like I can't move if I change my mind and I don't want to do this? But I think there needs to be a vision. I think there needs to be like a North Star, which sounds like quite complex to do, but it really isn't.
No.
I think everybody I've worked with, whenever there's like one particular, like there's always a big chunk of time I spend on like people, like I've done it with you, like it's not about now, it's not about next year, it's not about next year, but like if we could design it now, what would 5 years look like?
Yeah.
If I could erase any sort of skepticism or pessimism, and we went a bit American for a moment, and we kind of were a bit like, if we could make this a design project and put like flags in the sand along the way, what would be an amazing situation to get to? And sometimes when I've been like around dinners and stuff like that, and I've talked about what I do and I talk about this thing, lots of people being like, well, everybody can't get what they want. But I just don't like believe it, because I think there's an extreme example being, everybody can't be Dua Lipa, or everybody can't be, whatever is relevant to their universe. But most of the people I meet don't want that.
Yeah.
They just want what they have now, but better. And that's like feeling better. It could be a money thing, could be a status thing,
Freedom
could
thing.
be a family thing,
Yeah.
could be a home thing. I don't think people have like, in my experience, like crazy aspirations for what their life is already. They just want it to be like a bit more considered. But then it's really hard to spend time working that out. It's really hard to do it on your own, because in your brain, you've got this one part of your brain that's basically just like, don't do it. Don't do it. It's way too risky. Way too risky. You're going to fuck it up. You always fuck it up. You always make mistakes. No one's going to like you. Everyone's going to think you're an idiot. Like all this mad stuff.
Made up stuff.
Everybody's got it, by the way. I think like some people think that you might come across people that are successful, like financially, big houses or status and all that sort of stuff. And then we think that they've just got like supreme confidence. But trust me, I can work with lots and lots of successful people, and everyone's got niggles. Everyone's got this thing being like, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be laughed at. The themes, you asked me like a little bit ago, like, are there any themes and stuff like that? There are, like, I think in human beings, there's two root themes. We're worried about like community and what people will think of us. And then we're worried essentially about failure, essentially, in some sort of form. And loads of nuance manifests from that,
I think it'd be interesting to break some of those things down. But quickly, Tom, we're going to do a quick, it's not an ad. I just feel like my brain needs to be on. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, nice,
That was a
dude.
nice segue.
Yeah, that's really
Have
good.
you ever had a
that
magic
was.
mind, Tom?
Oh, the magic mind. Yeah.
Have you had one?
You gave me one.
Did I? There you go.
Is
There you
it
go,
time to have
Davey.
one now?
Quick magic mind break. Yeah. Plain and simple, mate. It's a productivity drink. If
That's
you need
what
to
we need.
lock in, need some focus, then take a quick shot of magic mind.
Mental performance, we've got it with lion's mane, bacopa, and cognizin. Less stress,
Yeah.
not a problem.
Not a problem.
Ashwagandha, L-theanine, and turmeric. And let me tell you, if you want a bit of energy, we got rhodiola, cordyceps, and matcha. Davey, there's some stuff for vitality there as well.
There is indeed.
By the way, if you go on my website, I also promote working with me does create sharper mind, lower stress, and better energy.
Oh, beautiful.
Magic mind
The
really
human
need to call
embodiment
me.
we have sat here.
The human
It's
embodiment.
incredible.
Yeah, that's basically my USPs.
It is. If you'd like to
Go
learn
speak
more,
to Magic Mind.
if you'd like to learn more, you can also save up to 45%, which is a whopping great big discount.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. magicmind.com/ride20. You can find all the info and get yourself a 15-day, 14-day pack. So cheers, Magic Mind.
Cheers, Magic Mind.
Things are going to change now. Watch this. Ding. Thank you.
Nice.
Does taste
I feel
nice.
great.
Yeah.
Does taste nice, right?
Yeah, it does taste nice.
You didn't
Yeah,
just
yeah,
chuck
yeah.
yours, did you? We've got a camera on you. You can't hide.
I downed it.
He downed it.
Downed
Good.
it. I
Next
feel
nomination.
proud.
I'd love for you to talk about the moment in life where you thought, I need help. I need a coach.
I was really interested when you were talking about it, actually.
Yeah.
A lot like it goes with your question. Because I think now that you know all of this stuff, in hindsight, you didn't know. Could you have benefited from a coach? You know what I mean? So it is the same question.
Yeah, it's great.
I don't mean to be hijacking.
It's an
you know
addition.
What I mean? Addition, yeah.
It's a beautiful
Yeah,
addition.
Yeah. Yeah. It would have been really nice.
How long did you cruise for before you needed
I
to
had
make
like
a change?
my first like coaching experience was I'm 44.
Yep.
An 80s baby, and we're all like similar ages. And if anybody's like listening to this like podcast with a similar age, it's not the culture we grew up in. It's not the language of our parents. This sort of stuff to kind of talk and be open and essentially like ask for help. It's not like it with our dads and stuff like that. That's not what they were told. As a general stereotype, you know, not everybody is the same, but as a general rule, that's not really what it is. So honestly, it wasn't even in my radar. Like therapy wasn't in my radar. You know, none of that sort of stuff. Well, I mean, I would have. Yeah, I mean, I think you need it at different points in life, whatever those chapters are. It would have been great to have it at 21. Would it have worked or had any impact? Like maybe not. I probably was like super arrogant and just in my own world and really probably focused on like just partying and have a good time.
Yeah.
So I think it's like complicated because at that time, I especially reflect on my 20s, I had loads of fun.
Yeah.
You know, I was
It's kind of 2-3D a problem to think about, isn't it? Because surely your path led you to coaching as well as, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
100%. So I got like zero regrets about it, like absolutely zero regrets about it. How did it happen? The best way I could describe myself is that there was a period of time, and I could describe myself as beige.
Okay.
I just felt super beige, and I always wanted a life full of loads of color, and I always liked having loads of experiences and people, and I love variety. It's kind of part of who I am, and just everything started to get super beige.
As it was like repetitive every day.
Yeah, just like
Boring.
lacking excitement. I didn't really know it was just colorless. And I sat on that for a long, long time.
How long?
Oh, like probably like years.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone really would have known, you know, but that, you know, I was early 30s, and there were big things in the horizon, you know, like marriage, children, you know, owning a house, you know, foundational root stuff, you know, which is, you know, that's kind of natural kind of part of life. And I kind of like felt that I was maybe on a train, and I could kind of see where the train was on in terms of like the industry that I was in and all that sort of stuff. And I was a bit like, I don't like where it's going. Like I could see, and there's lots of contemporaries older than me, and I was a bit like, is this really like the train track I'm supposed to be on? Is this, at what point did this become a reality? I will say, and this comes back to like this concept of pain, like it's rare that somebody comes to me like being like, life is amazing. I want you to make it more amazing.
I want more.
Kinda.
It's too sick.
Yeah, there's actually younger people come to me with that, being like, I'm doing really well, and I'm like hyped for the next thing. The younger generation, the difference in our generation, is that like, you know, they're actually a lot more open, a lot more vulnerable, because they've grown up with a lot more of this like dialogue and this narrative, whether it's from social media or whatever that may be. So I basically got to a situation where the pain, the discomfort of it was just too much to sit with. And thankfully, somebody said to me, you need to go and speak to someone. You speak to a coach. I was like, I don't know what a coach is.
Yeah.
I didn't need therapy because it wasn't a problem with my past. Right. I had a problem with my future. I knew it very clearly. I did not know what to do next year. I didn't know what to do the next year, the next year, the next year. Yeah. And I did have like aspirations and things that I wanted. And I wanted to be like a good dad and a good husband and all that sort of nice stuff.
Yeah. And
so that kind of what started the kind of train rolling. And that's the big thing. I guess like the message always is that it's a really fun, it's a really empowering journey. It can be like a lot to hire like somebody like me. Like at first, right, you said it was a bit like invested in myself and stuff like that. But like if we talk about some of the bigger things about being a guy, specifically, this is why guys are killing themselves.
Yeah,
is it get too trapped in the discomfort and the or the beigeness of whatever life has become, and they don't escape it, and it becomes too much.
Okay,
and not to, it's a big subject.
I put out a stat. Do you want it? In 2023, males accounted for approximately 74% of all suicide deaths in England and Wales, with 4,500 male deaths registered, which is quite gnarly.
Super gnarly. It's super gnarly.
It's gnarly.
It's a cultural thing. It's a beliefs thing. It's all that sort of stuff. And
do you think that is the root of most of it? Is that pressures of society, pressures of being a husband, a dad, or even the opposite of being single and feeling like you're never going to get anywhere? I guess it's. I
think I probably wouldn't want to comment on one way or the other.
No.
Life is complex. All I can say is life is very, very complicated. And everybody has very complicated backgrounds and complicated families and all that sort of stuff. And I think my approach or my theory or my philosophy on life, which stems from the fact that you can change things. And there are loads of people, which is why coaching exists, which is essentially to create new pathways and ways to do it, because it is a solvable problem. By the way, like my job as a coach is not to be like, oh, by the way, this is like a good life. That's how you do it. My hope was that I wasn't just sitting there being like, dude, like, you just need to do this and this and this and it's fine. It doesn't really work. Like it's not. I haven't figured out the matrix of life. I haven't figured out what happiness is and all that. I'm like on that journey as well. My job is to essentially create space and a route to solve those things, not to sit there and be like,
this is just what you need to do, mate.
Like the level of influence I have over you two basically is whether you choose like pepperoni or mushroom on your pizza tonight. And that's really actually not just me, but most people, we don't actually listen to advice, which is sometimes why it's quite frustrating. You know, so for example, I don't know, let's say you've got like a mate who's in a relationship and that relationship is awful and you're all sitting around with him and being like, you just need to leave. Like it's not working, it's not good for you. And that person just doesn't leave.
Yeah.
And you're all just tearing your hair out. You can see everybody's miserable in it. Until that person believes in a different existence out of the routine of that particular way of living, then they won't change. And so my job or a job of a coach is to basically create the pathways to feel excited about making a decision, and that it will probably work out.
Yeah,
it might be hard. It's probably going to be hard. I think most good stuff happens because raising children is hard. Yeah, like trying to do running a business is hard.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think I don't think we should be if we can link the hard stuff to like passion, vision, curiosity, creativity, all these things that community, like other people, and be aware of too much isolation. Like we're pretty amazing as people. We do mad stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that's a huge thing, especially coming off the back of, you know, the COVID years and stuff like that. This isolation thing, especially with men, that seems like a real problem. I think I try and relate it a little bit like to some of my friendship group, that there seems to be this thing now as we've got older that people aren't as open to reach out. They aren't as open to go out for drinks or go for meals or even reply to texts. There's been this weird shift in this sort of, not, maybe it's just me, but like, you know, this sort of just want to be left alone and do my own thing sort of thing, which is great. And I always use this example of like, you know, I am very much, I like where I live in the countryside. I want to be left alone until I'm lonely. And then I'm like, I need community. I need friends. I need family. I need it quite urgently. But I think thinking about how I structure my life, it needs to be like drip fed more. You need to intentionally make those efforts to see people, to do things, to go out for bike rides with your mates and not just on your own all the time. I think a lot of men especially might suffer more with that these days, I'd say. I don't know, but I'd say so.
You see that, you feel, but you get a sense of that just from your friendship groups and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think there seems to be like, it's almost become too hard to be like, oh, I'll organise a ride with some mates. I don't know, maybe it's just my friendship group, I'm not sure, but I definitely think, I'd say I see more people out, for example, mountain biking on their own than you used to. Seems to be that way, where I live.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It seems to become like, oh, I just want to do my own thing all the time.
Yeah, I think probably the community question is probably the thing that I'm most passionate about.
Yeah. And people are lacking community, would you say? Is that fair?
I can only really relate it to me.
Yeah.
So, pandemic happened. I had a daughter in the pandemic, 2020. She was born in a lockdown. All the gnarly stuff. Parents couldn't visit for months on end. All that sort of stuff. Isolated and in London. Had like a good community of like new parents and stuff like that. While coming out of the lockdown, we decided to leave London and move more rural, which was like intentional decision, super excited about it and like hyped that we've done it and it's like the right decision, it's all good. But coming out of the pandemic, I would have probably classed myself as more introverted than extroverted. And I think there's some confusion about those terms like introversion and extroversion. I think people sometimes use being introverted as a reason not to be with people.
Yeah.
And that's not strictly true. It just means it's the type of or quality of the conversation or the quality of the relationships. So for example, I said earlier, I'm not like a massive pub guy. You know, me sitting in a room, you know, around like a kind of like a boisterous 10 thing. I just kind of want one-on-one. Like this is like a dream scenario.
Yeah.
But I love people. I want people. I love people. And so coming out of the pandemic, and moving to this new area, didn't know anybody, hadn't been in that part of the world before. And also I changed like mentally and my personality had changed. You know, pre-pandemic is when I requalified, went back to school, got my all of my qualifications, launched this business. That was like a huge journey. Like I'm so different to what I was when I was like 35, for example. And I came out of it and I was kind of lonely. You know, I have my like best friends and I love them dearly and I do see them, but you know, we're all at a certain age where there's children and I guess like the scheduling of activities feels like a lot more, you know, when we were younger, everyone was just
one
there.
text and everyone's just there.
Yeah. So I think the pressures of like family life and people being sporadic in where they live. And so I had the intention, I was like, I want to know loads of people. I want to know lots of different types of people. I want to have like cool conversations. I want to meet climate scientists. I want to meet other people. I want to meet new people. And I created this thing. I recognize that I can't do that. I can't expect to be invited to do things if I don't invite people to do things. I recognize that fact. I can't want to be around people and then just sit and wait for it. I basically have to be intentional. So I thought, what if I just do a dinner and I invite like 13 people I'll just do a dinner. Like I'll do. Everybody pays. I'm not paying for it, but I'll organize it, and did it. And I did a dinner, and that was 2 years ago, and like 14 people came. A couple of people I didn't really like. Some people I'd known for a long time, but loads of other like kind of friends of friends kind of put the word out. The premise of basically everyone had to come alone.
Right.
I was kind of curious about kind of creating a space where loads of people didn't know. I can't be the only one.
Yeah.
Like other people must want to meet other people. I'm not like an alien. We're not aliens. And it was the maddest night. It was like, and it was, I got a spot that was like private. It wasn't like a restaurant. It was just like, I managed to make it quite a bit of an event. Like 6 courses, like met a chef who wanted to do it. Everybody paid. And it was the most insane 5 hours
Really,
of my life. It was wild. And everybody kind of moved around. So you sat down and then every other course I'd move people around. So everybody got to kind of hang out with everybody. There was like no agenda. It was just like, imagine coming to my house. Let's like this. Like we've never met before. So it was a bit like, let's just talk about anything.
Yeah.
Cats, dogs, love, big stuff, small stuff, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And after doing that one, I was a bit like, and everybody after was like, that was like the best night I've had in like years.
Wow.
It wasn't anything special in the sense of just sat down and had some food.
Yeah.
It was just like new people and quite varied. And I was like, God, that was amazing. I need to do another one. So I booked another one the next month. And then 14 new people came. And I was like, and the same thing happened again. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to do it again. And each one that went, each one I did, I got more confident in essentially being center of attention, essentially,
Host.
or understand the host and
Yeah.
being knowing that it's important to kind of like create the good vibes. And 2 years later, maybe like 800 people have had dinner with me now.
Wow.
Wow, yeah.
All strangers.
That's cool.
Like just anybody I kind of bump into who I think's like a good vibe. I'm just like, want to come for dinner? I've got one, like I've got one in 2 weeks, got another one in 2 weeks after that. My last one I did was in LA, and I'll do them all over. I was in LA for work, speaking at a conference, did one in LA. 20 people came, didn't know any of them.
Wow.
Did one on a beach in France around another like festival that I went to.
Yeah.
It's super interesting, right? Because we've sort of got a metric. Everyone who listens to this is a bike rider, and as you go through life, like for the last 20 years, it's not been very hard for me to go riding with people. But you get to an age where everyone changes a bit, and it thins out, dude.
It does.
It thins out, and like I do hear what you're saying, like the dinner party idea almost for riding. Yeah, you can see that you get to a certain age and just there are more distractions and there are more responsibilities, I guess. I guess that's probably what it is.
I think, you've also just summarised what I said badly before about like it's just got harder to see people, and I think there's all these other elements, kids, family, work pressure, this, that and the other, whereas before it would literally be like one text, we're going here at this time, everyone's there, and it's a crew, whereas now it's really difficult to start getting your mates to come together.
Do you know what else? Because of the constant communication, like when we just had home phones, we used to meet up the woods. It was without fail, everyone would turn up. It would be first thing in the morning. You didn't have to like almost communicate it. It was the thing that you did.
Yeah.
Obviously that's because we're kids and we're fucking around in the woods and we're all riding bikes and we're all super hyped up about it and stuff, but there is something about like endless communication that almost the options are so much that it leaves you bewildered, like scrolling on Netflix. You don't, when you just had a DVD, easy, you put it in, you watch it. When there's 9 million and you're scrolling through them and you don't even know what genre, and they go all directions, up, down, left, right. Like you don't know where it kind of, you feel a bit bewildered. I almost think, I don't think that's an age thing. That's, life has become more complicated, right? Surely it must affect every aspect, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, like watching Netflix is more just about scrolling Netflix and then turning it off.
Dude, that happens so often, and I'm never sure if it's just me. George and I, we sit there. You've
Did
been
it last
there.
night.
Did it last night? We were just going, do you want to watch that? And then I even said to her, all right, well, let's try and break it down. Just pick 4.
Yeah.
And like rate them.
Yeah.
She's like, well, I don't want any of them. Ridiculous.
So watch something crap and turn it off.
But do you not want any of them, or do you not want any of them because there's all these other ones?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But I think
Too much.
I think that what I know, everybody wants to be with people. I don't think nobody is like, oh, because the mad thing is that the point of these things, you have to come alone. You've got to be uncomfortable. You've got to walk into a room. I don't tell anybody what's going to happen. I don't tell where you're going until the morning of.
Right, yeah.
You don't
like
tell
where-
them where to put their keys, do you?
Yeah, not quite like that. But more just, it's more about like the discomfort of basically walking into a room and not knowing anyone, and then quite quickly recognizing the fact that actually people are sound. And my job is to just create the environment that makes it feel warm. Like when I walked in here, it's just like, hi,
Yeah.
it's no big deal,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And if only just to start dislodging this idea, because what we end up doing as we get older, being like, I don't like people, or, you know, all these funny things that we say about, like, well, you were saying, just being, I don't want to run about people, like I'm quite happy just kind of on my own, all that sort of stuff.
100%.
And I don't think it's true.
No.
I think it's like it's a really
defense mechanism.
really easy get out clause.
Yeah.
We actually want loads and loads of people. My life in the last few years has significantly changed because of this stuff. The night before, I don't sleep. I don't have nails. I'm like,
For one of these parties, yeah, you don't strike me as someone who's worried about one of these parties.
and this is the problem is that we instantly assume that if somebody is doing something, being an incredible rider, that they're basically just complete confidence, effortless. They were born to do it. They don't they were born with like a special gift and all that sort of stuff. I have learnt to become like a host. I have learnt how to put on dinners. I'm basically messaging people and being like, hey, I was doing it on the train here. I've got one in 2 weeks. I've got to fill it up, and it's got to be new people that I don't really know. So I'm like, people think I'm mad. Like I'll go to a gig or whatever, and the guy sitting next to me, if I'm talking to him about at the end of the gig, I'll be like, I don't know you, but do you want to come for dinner? And that's like, you mental. And the one in LA is the best. I was on the flight to LA, and I had one on Saturday night, and I sat next to this immigration lawyer. She was so nice. And getting off the plane, we just had like good chats on the flight. And at the end of the flight, I was like, we don't know each other, but I'm doing a dinner like in Silver Lake tomorrow. There's going to be like 16 people there. Do you want to come? She just went, all right.
No way, yeah.
And she turned up.
Rad.
I was like, badass.
That's cool.
And now I know her.
Yeah.
And now we follow each other. If I'm in LA, I can call her up, hang out. And the world has gotten loads smaller. And we have that when we're in like our micro scenes when we're younger. If we, I'm from grew up in Bristol. Skateboarding in mid-90s in Bristol was big because there was this shop called 50/50, which was a guy called Danny Wainwright who created it, who was already like one of the UK's best. And it's like he created that scene of loads of young people getting into skateboarding. And then that becomes your identity, and I relate to that. And it's the same if you're in a particular music scene or whatever that may be. But it slowly dissipates, and sometimes we need new things, new hobbies, new interests, new people. And also I think someone's just got to do it.
Yeah.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
Like you do it.
Yeah.
This is like you guys do it, bring people here, get people out the house, talk, share ideas, force them to speak.
Yeah.
About big things.
Why do you think it is that because I'm actually 100% with you. I think that your dinner parties are fantastic because when you're disarmed, the conversation seems to be better, right?
Yeah.
So when you're on a flight, I feel like everyone's sort of like in between. You don't have to be nervous of flying, but you're like sat next to someone real close in a plane traveling at 600 miles an hour, or a sauna. You're sat in your pants like a loser, and it's boiling hot, and you want to leave, but you can't leave because you've got to wait for the egg timer. Like quite often, things like that make for good. Why do they make for good conversation? Do you think it is? What about being disarmed is good?
I think you tell strangers the maddest stuff.
Yeah.
And stuff that you're not even thinking of, because they're asking you sort of almost baseline questions that your best mates are not asking of you, and they've maybe never asked of you, but you've always done that thing. So they might ask you, being just like, you know, they ask you about your future. What are your plans for the next? Like, what it's gonna look like as a rider in 5 years' time? And you'll be a bit like, I mean, like, fair question.
Yeah.
No one's actually asking me at that, and then you'll just start answering it fairly free flow. You'll just be a bit like, "It's a good question. I've been thinking about that, and I was thinking maybe like this," and they're like, "That it's interesting." You know, they just ask quite like, "Why do you do what you do?" You're a bit like, "Why do I do what I do?"
Yeah.
Or they go like, "How did you get into it?" And you'll be like, "I've never thought how I got into it."
Yeah,
actually.
true. Yeah.
What do you love about it? God, I haven't asked myself that question. I don't know. It's just like, because they don't know anything, and we ask the same questions back. Especially if we meet people that we don't. You know, if you meet like a lawyer, you're a bit like, "What's that like then?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, it's like this and this."
I guess you're more curious with strangers.
I think we're super like curious.
Yeah.
And I think.
And there's an element of also keeping the conversation going, because you're going to be sat next to someone.
Yeah, and it forces you to basically
Forces
be
you
like, I've
into
got
it.
to kind of find. I think that's a
What an
really
interesting
interesting part of
concept.
these. You've got to find, because someone might say something, you know, something that you're a bit just like, "Yeah, well, I'm a solicitor," or something. You're a bit like, "Oh God," and they might be dressed quite straight laced and all that sort of. And you'd be like, "God, that's not my person." You know, like, this is he's
I wonder
not
if
like.
it's a thing to.
But then you find that you both love cats.
Yeah.
And or there's sometimes I can see two people in a really big thing, and it'll be something massive, like their dads have just died, or so, you know, like they find, and then these and there's disparate age groups and ethnicities that come to these dinners. They're not planned in the sense of like who comes to them. It's basically just,
Yeah.
you know,
Forcing people
just
into
try
those
and make sure that
situations.
just like, you know, it's just good people fundamentally. But they have changed my life.
That's sick.
And every time, like at the beginning this year, and I was looking at booking them in and know how much work they take. I don't make any money. It's not money. It's not a money thing. And my brain is literally just like, "Don't do it, Tom. What are you doing? It's just so much hard work." And I get ghosted so much, like, because I'm triggering people all the time, because I'm asking like, "Can you come for dinner?" And they might have even like my Instagram posts about it or something. And I'd be like, "Hey man, saw you liked it. Do you want to come?" And like nothing.
Ah.
And they want to.
Yeah.
I'm sure they want to, but they're just like, oh my God, like, what am I going to say? And am I cool enough? Or like, I'm not interesting, or I don't do anything, like mad things people say to me, you know, like if I invite, you know, a new mum, you know, some people have said to me like, "But I'm just a mum. Like, I don't have anything to say. I don't do anything cool." I was like,
You're the most relatable thing ever.
I was like,
especially
"You're,
for someone else.
of course you're cool."
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter what you do. Like everybody has got like so many cool stories, whatever they have done. You
Yeah.
know, it doesn't matter if they present to the world as cool or not. It doesn't actually make a difference.
A couple of things on this. First thing, I've got to get this thought out. Interesting concept for a video is like forced conversation. So you just get two people off the street and go, "Right, you got to sit in a room over here. We've already got it set up. It's a podcast studio. You're going to sit there for an hour and you're going to meet someone random." Pretty cool idea. Secondly, it's been interesting to see that with this. So I've always, even from the start, been like, I want to build a community. It's not just a podcast, whatever. It's always, you know, we jokingly call it the companionship now. But when we've done events, you know, we've done a bunch of things, especially one called Freedom Ride that we did. It was so interesting to see how many people, not just guys, came on their own and just wanted to feel part of something. And I think that's the sickest thing, because I'm really keen on continuing that, because I don't want people just to listen and watch and that's all they do. They're like part of it, you know, which is really cool.
It's like, I mean, that's unbelievable. But we're all able to do it. We all basically have to do it. I always come back to this discomfort thing. It's an uncomfortable thing to do.
Yeah.
And we do less uncomfortable things as we get older. So
what would a tip that you'd be for someone? Just so someone's got like a tangible thing. Let's say they are feeling, like you said, maybe a little bit beige. Maybe they're feeling a little bit like, I'm stuck in a bit of a rut. What would you say are like the first steps to trying to work towards adding more colour and getting out of that rut? Because I think a lot of it is just, it's this sort of conversation, isn't it? Where you actually become open to the idea. Because if you're not even open to the idea, then it's hard to know what you need to do. But yeah, what would you say?
Oh my God, that's such a big question.
Yeah.
It's like 1,000 things went through my mind. I don't know how to answer that.
Should we have a break?
Yeah.
So
Oh,
let's
nice.
have a break,
Oh,
and we can think about it.
I'm going to think about that one.
Think
Okay.
about it.
Ollie's just nipped to the bathroom, so I thought I'd just have a quick Huel break, which is actually the perfect segue into this ad. We are extremely excited to welcome Huel to the podcast. If, like me, you end up running late, you don't have time for breakfast, and you just end up starving all the time, like I do. We've all been there, all right? You're racing around, you're trying to do meetings, you're doing school pickups, which I don't do. Whatever it is, you're going to need something delicious, easy, quick, nutritious to fill the void. So this podcast is now sponsored by Huel, Huel, the world's #1 complete nutrition brand with over 400 million meals sold worldwide. Yes, you heard it right. That's 400 million. Huel is trusted by people just like you and me to fuel their days with convenient, complete nutrition. So you can now actually try it for yourself with our exclusive discount code. You can get 10, in fact, no, we're not doing 10. We're going to do 15% off with our code RIDE at huel.com. But I also want to tell you about my personal favorite, okay? Strawberry banana. My two favorite things. I love strawberries. I love bananas. You can't go wrong with putting them together. Plus adding 35 grams of protein. These things leave you feeling full, and you're not like scratching around for food in gas stations. You're not grabbing a quick fast food meal or whatever. You can actually tick that nutritional deficiency off with a good quality product. So yeah, this is my personal favorite. I also love the new black edition, the ready to drink. It's got another whopping 35 grams of protein, 27 different vitamins and minerals, and it all comes in one handy bottle. Basically, it tastes like milkshake, and who doesn't love milkshake? So that's 15% off with code RIDE at huel.com. Unlock a healthier, easier way to eat with Huel. Nutritionally complete meals in minutes so you can focus on what really matters. Biking. Cheers, Huel. Speaking of happy, we're back from the ad, and what a fantastic ad break that was.
Oh, it was really good.
It was one of the best.
It was really good.
We keep elevating it. So a question before the ad break was if someone watching or listening to this is feeling a little bit beige, maybe they feel like they're stuck in a rut, is there a couple of things you think that they could do in order to start working the way out of that rut?
God, I'm reflecting on that in the ad break.
I know.
And it was so hard.
I mean, we've had a 3-hour ad break, so I hope you've got a good answer.
Yeah, I've been here for hours. You haven't fed me.
Please show your work.
You want me to ask? Yeah, want me to answer that really big question? I guess I don't think I can do it with one thing. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't think we're great in solving these things in isolation.
Mm-hmm.
It's my #1 thing. I think a conversation with somebody, articulating basically the problem is probably a great start. You know, what is wrong, or how do I feel? Is probably, psychologically speaking, one of the biggest things you can do.
Yeah.
I think inspiration is key. So I think actually the reason the podcast is so big is it's fundamental. So the brain, basically our brains are a bit like we are essentially a collection of stories. Beliefs are essentially this concept of we are a story and we can change that story all the time. And I think podcasts are so prevalent and so impactful nowadays is because the brain loves stories, which means it loves gossip. Us human beings really love gossip, and this is kind of a version of gossip. Yeah. What do you do? How do you think about things? What's going on in your life? How much do you earn? Like all that sort of stuff. And I think a big chunk of it is getting inspiration, which is essentially trying to build a pathway to recognizing the fact that it is a solvable problem. Yeah. That you and then that could be anything, like you can have a new career, you can start a business, you can get a pay rise, all those different things. And you can ride faster, jump higher, all those different things. But it's just trying to find the stories of people that have done it and then trying to listen to those stories about how they've done it. and then started to recognize the fact that it is possible. I think a lot of it comes from trying to find inspiration and evidence of the fact that it can happen.
Yeah. That's so interesting to think, because I do the same thing when I listen to podcasts. You just take these little snippets and you're like, oh, I could do that, or I can use that and that tool, or whatever it could be. What do you think? What's your feelings with social media? You say inspiration, and straight away my brain went, social media, cool. You can look at inspirational things, but then the flip side of that is probably what might be keeping people in a rut. Is that like, look at that person's living that life, I'm living my shit life. All you see is highlights on social media, and it's becoming obvious. It's quite obvious that's not healthy. I don't feel like. I certainly have issues with it, you know, looking at things and going like, oh, look at that guy, he's killing it. Look at me, you know? So yeah, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that, and can it be used for good?
I mean,
it good?
I would say yes, but it comes down to the whole like reactive, proactive thing and how we use it, how most people use, I am guilty of this as well. Certainly not an indestructible human being, but as how we use these. Social media is a tool, and it's how you use the tool, right? So the problem is that we're in a war for attention, and so all of these tech companies psychologically understand how the brain works, loves repetition, loves predictability, loves routine, which is why doom scrolling exists, because it's literally targeted to how your brain works. So it's very clever in that sense.
Yeah.
So if you're intentionally using social media, like, it's amazing. You know, if you're using Pinterest to try and find inspiration for your new bathroom or kitchen, or if you're using Instagram for all that sort of stuff, or you're looking for when your band is playing the show in your town and whatever, it's intentional. I need to find this. I'm using it to this, and it's a discovery tool. Whereas most people are using it to sort of escape, escape and kind of get lost in the whole algorithms, and then natural use all the negative elements of the like human psyche, which is sort of comparison, which is a sort of a fundamental of human beings. Comparison is really healthy when channeled. Like, it's the fundamentals of competition, right? If you're all, you know, that's why community, and you have to be very conscious about the people that you're surrounded with. I see that as like a dad. My daughter is like learning to swim at the moment, and she's in a little crew of swimmers, of little kids learning to swim, and she's the oldest by maybe like 6 months, which in that age is actually there's a quite big difference, you know, like that much height and stuff like that. All the younger kids are really brave. They're like underwater, just like flying, all that sort of stuff. And she was probably more a cautious swimmer. And in that environment, she's moving. Like, she is like, her like gains are massive because she's using comparison. Yeah. Like over Christmas, before Christmas, she was kind of like a bit of a picky eater, and was starting to kind of have those normal like childhood tendencies. And then like 2 weeks away with family and sitting around having dinner all the time with adults and watching adults eat, she started to try new things.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that kind of comparison and seeing and what's going on and being like, maybe I'll try this, and being like, oh, it's not that bad. So I think that's like going back to kind of the community and the kind of messaging and things like that. You can view it, if you choose to, and trigger your envy, being like, no, I want that. Like, how do they get that? I think I'm in a unique position, is that I'm involved in so many people's lives, people that make millions of pounds, people that are famous, people that do like great things, whatever that may be, lots of different lives. And they all do, I've seen everybody do amazing things in equal measure, which is what they consider unique. Yeah. And that could become like making a baby, or that could be, you know, buying a house or being able to rent. It doesn't have to be like grand. So I am of the opinion, which is not maybe the default opinion in our slightly pessimistic skeptic world. I kind of think that I think it's possible.
Wow. I really enjoyed that exercise we did together, which was the values one. I think that was really helpful. And again, it was about intentionally taking that time to sit and do it. I can't remember if we did it
It's the first thing we did.
The first thing we did. There you go.
Yeah. I'm a bit obsessed with values.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about values in this sort of abstract concept, like it's not tangible. But quite simply, like motivators, we've got two types of motivators: extrinsic motivators. The brain loves extrinsic motivators. Extrinsic motivators are kind of created by society. So money and status is the traditional extrinsic motivators. So when we're younger, we don't have status and we don't have money, and it's a massive focus for us because we leave school or whatever education and we enter the workforce, and we're sort of looking for those things. And whether we're passionate about them or make them happy is sometimes not that important. We just need to get paid every month so we can maybe go and have fun in the evenings and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's more that we're trying to get those sort of things. My hope is that as we get older, we start to see like extrinsic motivators as essentially quite hollow, in the sense that they don't actually deliver satisfaction, fulfillment, joy, excitement, all those different things. But in times of like emotional turmoil, and we don't know where to go, we don't know quite what our future is, we automatically go back to extrinsic motivators, being like, well, maybe if I get a job that pays like 10 grand more, that will make the difference.
Then
they do it, and then a month in being like, oh shit, I'm just as miserable. Why is that then? Or, greater status, or maybe I get that new job title, or maybe I get that new sponsorship, whatever that may be, and be like, I don't feel any different. So that's extrinsic motivators. The brain loves that. And then there's a thing called intrinsic motivators. Intrinsic motivators kind of like visualize that they live here. It manifests essentially in like flow state.
Okay.
When you're just doing something and sort of time disappears. That can manifest in your hobbies. If you look at your to-do list and there's a thing that you spend 5 hours doing, and someone might be like, what are you doing? There's like no point doing that. There's no point spending 5 hours painting a Games Workshop figurine. Like, what's the point in that? But for that person, they're just like a pig in shit, super happy, all that sort of stuff. It's like fundamentally feeding them. And often when I ask people about how they make decisions, people often say to me, gut feel. So you might take a left instead of taking a right. I'd be like, but why there and not there? Gut feel, Tom, that's felt like the right thing to do. So what's going on with there? Like, explain to me. And most people will be like, I can't. It just felt like the right thing to do, Tom. I don't know what to say. And this is essentially where values come into play, because sort of underneath that gut decision is this concept of values, which is essentially the closest thing I think we have to a compass. Yeah. If we are connected to our values and make decisions with our values in mind, it's leading us in a direction that fundamentally like fulfills us. We're in situations that fulfill us. We have a kind of core set of values that are set by our late teens, early 20s, and they don't change. No. They are fundamental to who we are. Our bodies like constantly trying to get closer to them, and our brain doesn't care. Our brain's basically not overly interested in that, just trying to get more status and like more money and all that sort of stuff. So we're always in a bit of a battle with each other. Lots of people, what they try and sometimes do is try and get success and money and then shoehorn values into it. So doing something that's financially rewarding or gives them good status, and then trying to find out ways to enjoy it. As mad as that sounds, like lots of people in careers are in that, where they've been like, I get paid loads. I'm not crazy happy, but they try and find bits in the day that make them happy. And I guess I would try and rearrange that to be, I think money and fame or status, whatever that looks for each person, comes from essentially listening to your values first. So 8 years ago, I really worked on what my values are, and most decisions I make are through the lens of a value. Okay. So, for example, the reason that I'm here is a values-based decision. So my core values is freedom. So essentially that's like autonomy and independence. So it's not an accident that I sort of work for myself. I basically want freedom of choice over everything.
Yeah.
Adventure, which is essentially curiosity, discovery, exploration. What's around there? What's going on in there? Like on the train here, I was just a bit like, this is badass, so fun. Walking here, what's going on here then? And then my third value is connection, which is essentially like community, belonging, all that sort of stuff. So if you were to put my, if you put like those supper clubs in the middle of like those three values, it's logic. It makes sense why I did them. Each one is completely different. It's a bit of I don't really know how it's going to go. There's an element of just like, it's connection and community. And then from the freedom aspect, knowing loads of people gives me an absolute sense of like autonomy, that I feel like supported, and that actually if I have a problem, whatever that problem may be, I actually have like loads of different people to call upon now. And that, you know, if I need to talk to a lawyer, actually there's probably about 10 lawyers that have come to dinner with me like in 2014 alone. Right. Oh, 2024 alone. Okay. So I could call them up and be like, I got a bit of a problem. What do you think? Instead of being like trying to find one on the high street and being, you know, I've got like a big community now.
Yeah. Network is your net worth.
Network is your net worth.
Yeah.
So I think, that's essentially what values are.
Can you just explain it in that way that I think you kind of just did, about it being in a circle?
It's a triangle.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's a triangle.
And then when you have a value that is out of that, how does that? You know
so essentially, like imagine a triangle, and you put your 3 values in each one. Each value is in a family, so we probably have about 12 or 14 values in total as human beings. Where our values are developed from, we sometimes take on our family values, parent values. Sometimes we take the opposing ones, and then especially in our teenage years, we take on the values of the scenes that we're in. You know, I come from sort of, like I said before, like sort of like punk and metal and stuff like that. A lot of my values kind of come from that, you know, that kind of like autonomy and choice and freedom, you know, that's really in part of that. And the community element, you know, being the one that were teased in town because, you know, we were like what we in the West Country called grebos. You know, being the outsiders in town wearing the band t-shirts and all that sort of stuff. And back then, like mega baggy clothes and stuff like that.
Do you think that's formed around that age?
I think the teenage years, you know, like you guys, you know, mountain biking has a set of values, whether you realize it or not. And you would have taken those on from the kind of the forefathers and the brands and the community and what we would call like the hand-me-down or cultural values, cultural beliefs and values of that thing. And then we suck onto them. You know, I work with lots of people who come from sort of real like punk DIY, and it does impact their everyday thoughts around what is or isn't life. And it puts a lens in terms of, you know, what life should be, an attitude, a feeling of how you exist in that world. It's a values thing. So it I think, and I don't think they change. That's my philosophy, that they're set. I don't see any evidence of them changing. We reinterpret them as we get older. Anyway, so I think it's like a triangle, right? And what I do with everybody, and which I did with you, is that you basically have to put a real life situation in the middle, and then use it as a bit of an analytical tool. So let's just say, most people come to me and things are like complicated, feeling beige, unhappy, low, frustrated, all those different things. For me, I've got to understand fundamentally what is happening from a values aspect, and then I'll be able to help them understand, like, fundamentally, there's something you do not have which you deem very, very important to you. If we can understand that, then it's a bit like, well, how do we get that? So, for example, if I put... is that a piece of paper? Don't have to.
Let's find one.
It might be easier for me to do on a piece of paper. If considering it's like a camera,
you've got
or a marker.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think so.
I really love this exercise. I found it quite fascinating.
Marker. Yeah, I don't need to draw like loads on. I'm going to draw it.
Do you want that to lean on?
No. Let's move this.
It'd be pretty cool leaning on your own clapperboard with your name on.
Okay. First time we've had art on the show.
Art attack.
Let's do it. Okay. The camera's on you anyway.
Camera's on me. Here we go.
Yeah.
All right. Can you see that, guys? Everyone get involved. Triangle and a dot, and that can represent any real life situation, micro or macro. I've put my 3 values in there, like freedom, adventure, and connection. And quite quickly, so let's say if I'm working with somebody and I put, say, their career in there and I put their personal life in there, and though all 3 values are being suppressed, if we actually look at it being like, do you have these 3 things? And all 3 are being suppressed, they will not be in a good mental state at all. Because they don't really have anything that is fundamental to them. They're not having anything that is like is essentially their food. They don't have quite a rare circumstance.
Okay.
What is common in our jobs and at certain points in our life, if I was to put somebody's like job in there or career, that's sometimes quite common. It's essentially two values are being suppressed, but one is being massively met. So in this example, I could say, let's say I was working for somebody, it would be like, yeah, I mean, I have loads of autonomy in my job and I can do whatever I want, but I'm basically isolated and I don't get to talk to anybody, and I'm just doing the same thing every day. So what happens in this situation is that from a coaching standpoint, I'd be like, well, we've got to try and figure out how we get you less isolated, and kind of have more fun, learn more things. Adventure is about like curiosity and learning, doing new things. But in this situation, what my brain will do, logically speaking, there could be an argument to say like, maybe find something else to do, maybe. But my brain will basically, which is afraid of uncertainty, and wants more predictability, would be a little bit like, your job's not that bad. At least you have autonomy and freedom to do at least nobody's asking where you are during the day. Yeah. You might be alone every day, but it's not that bad. It will basically do everything it can to basically stop me making a change. And my job is to be like, there's another way. The biggest shift in my life came from like really understanding these and then starting to put like a lot of my decisions in the middle of those. My goal is basically to exist where all of these are being met all the time. It's like a lifelong thing, but I will say, you know, at the end of a day, I can feel, you know, those days where you just feel like, you know, you try and watch something and you're fidgety and you can't sit, you can't relax, and you know it hasn't been a good day for whatever reason. Most of the time I go back to this, and whenever I feel like that, it's because I've basically just done routine things. I've just been like in apps. Routine's not great for me. Like I literally haven't learned anything new. I haven't tried anything new. And it could be some minuscule, I've just made the same dish for dinner. Yeah. Like just really, haven't spoken to anyone. Which literally is a just thing. Like just on my own, like just absolute. And that's not to say I don't want that. Sometimes like intentionally I want some time alone. But I haven't like reached out, had a conversation, not even a WhatsApp, which has then impacted this. I just felt trapped basically. And so quite quickly I can be like, oh, I totally know why. Totally know why that was a rubbish day, and I could have changed it at any point of that. Yeah, you know. So it's quite a simplistic. It feels quite simplistic. It's complex, but often when we're in really complex situations, we think they're they're unsolvable, and it's trying to find lots of toolkits and methodologies, which is kind of what coaching is about. To start reinterpreting things and breaking it down to be like, what could I change? What can I do? So my goal is to try and get everybody I work with to basically get closer to this all the time. Yeah. This is unique for everybody. Everybody's got a different set of values. There's so many different types of values, but that will inform their behavior. If I'm in situations where this is happening, being suppressed, you'll get like a different version of me. Okay. You'll get like the grayer shade of the emotional spectrum. So like here is like, you know, I'm gonna be engaged, excited, fulfilled, satisfied. I'll be successful, loads of great things. If these start getting suppressed, I'm going to be passive aggressive. I'm going to be guarded. I might be angry, pissed off. Like, yeah, a lot of our grayer shade of our emotional spectrum. So it manifests in essentially behavior. I often say, if you're getting a really weird version of somebody, like they seem really triggered by you, or you're a bit just like, what is wrong with you? Like, what's going on? And they're just like, oh, you know, and you're a bit like, I would guarantee something is happening here. And everybody's got different, you know, kindness is a huge value for people, compassion, equality, all those different things. Everybody's got a slightly different thing. And if you can work out people's mix, you can be like, yeah. The hope is with our loved ones, we've kind of subconsciously we've worked that stuff out, being like, oh, that's why you're so annoyed. You know, somebody that maybe has like, kind of quite ethical values and things like that, which is a lot around honesty and openness and transparency and all those things in situations which seem to break their version of that. They're going to be just like fucking raging. Yeah. And, you know, whereas if you don't share those values, you're a bit just like, calm down. It's not that deep, but for them it is. It's a bit so. You know, that's why
doing that really helped me understand.
Do you remember your ones?
Yeah, helped me understand me, obviously, especially something I was working on and was a part of, and I was like, oh, this is why I'm not into it. It's because it's not meeting two of my 3 values, and then also really help me understand other people that I'm close to. So just be like, that's why. It makes sense. You can just kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's a massive thing. Like,
yeah,
I
it's
really
yeah.
like that.
It was exactly.
Yeah.
But the way this kind of little formula or exercise that I do, I spent loads of time because I want to make it tangible. It's not like this. It's not like a nice to know thing. It's essential to know because it's so connected to essentially how your gut works and what instinctively feels like right.
Yeah.
You know, we're often like loads of rooms and we feel really uncomfortable. A bit like, why do I don't feel like myself in here. There's like something going on around your values. And it could be the people that you're in. It could be, you know, there's a reason why, you know, certain people don't work with certain brands. And because it's a bit like, well, it doesn't reflect me.
Your values, yeah.
Your values in some sort of way.
Yeah.
You know, it does, so it's not quite right for me. Where from the outside looking in, being like, why would you not, I don't know, do that and then take the money? But they seem absolutely resolute, being like, it's not about that. I don't care what they're going to pay me. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And the outside world just think that was madness.
It's true.
You know, just being like, why would you not?
Yeah. Is there a
just take the money?
Is there a term for this exercise, or is it?
No, it's completely my methodology.
Is it? Yeah. Wow, interesting.
There are lots of like little exercises and stuff like that, like online, where you can try and work out your values.
Yeah.
But every time I've done them, they're not rigid enough. And it's really hard to do it alone because what you want to be careful is, you could pick a value that's not a value. You could pick something that you would love to have, but it's not authentically yours. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So there's lots of times I've actually tried to try to like maybe create like a digital version of this where people could just do it themselves. But I haven't worked it out because it needs somebody to basically pull it apart. Being like,
it needs prompts.
It needs like pulling apart, because you could easily choose a word. And if you choose a word and you believe that word to be an actual proper value and authentic to you, it will start impacting your decision making and behaviors.
Yeah.
And if it's the wrong thing, it can set you off in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Sales pitch, you can hire me. You can just do, this is just like, it takes about 90 minutes.
Yep.
You can hire me to do it. And
really good.
And I always try and do this with like everybody. It's always like the first session I do with everyone, basically.
Yeah. It just sets the standard. Well, it sets the base, doesn't it, of everything that you're going to build upon, I feel.
Yeah, being like, what are you into? Like, who are you fundamentally? Yeah.
I wanted to also talk about another massive takeaway I had from our sessions, which I think people will probably relate to, was finding the line that you won't go past. And I was going to use the example of, and I love this. At the time, I was like, oh, God, dickhead. But after, I was like, oh, my God, it's amazing. And we spoke about it. Was I text you a day before a session and was like, hey, man, like, I can't make tomorrow. You remember? And you text back a text that was like, okay, well, you're going to have to still pay me because blah, 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 blah. And I read it and I was like, that's amazing. I love that you've done that, because you have to have a line that you are unwilling to sort of, I don't know, unwilling to sort of go past almost. You have to have things that you are, that you stick to, that are your values. And that I feel like was really helpful for me. I learned loads from it, because I was like, yeah, why would I cancel? That makes no sense. No, show up, do your thing, and don't let people take the piss out of you, which was kind of your thing, right? Not to take the piss, but
no, man. I remember
love the line.
That conversation. I remember.
I've explained it awfully. I'm so sorry. But
yeah. So basically, you were going to cancel on me, and I was like, you can cancel on me, but you still got to pay me.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you can put me at the bottom of the list, but it'll cost you.
Yeah. But it sparked loads of things with our conversations about lines and people kind of taking the piss, whether it's I think it's
hard. It feels harsh to say to somebody they're taking the piss when you've allowed it.
Yeah,
because they're completely innocent to the fact.
Yeah.
So this is basically fundamentals of boundaries. There is a line. It's up to you to set it. And it can be a way that you communicate, it could be how you do business, all that sort of stuff. But it is, you have to set it. This is the mad, like no one ever taught me this sort of stuff. I've never had boundaries, all that sort of stuff. So easy going, like whatever, man.
Yeah.
Like, hide my feelings. It doesn't really matter.
Inside,
I'm pissed
like,
off,
you
but just
dick.
swallow it. It's fine. When I actually had control over it, to send that text to you was not a comfortable thing. You know, I looked at it because you know you would get on. You know, I know I'm your
Didn't
coach.
know each other that well.
No, but
Yeah.
I know your coach. You know, like there's a good connection. You know, all that sort of stuff. So instantly, a part of me is kind of that people pleasing thing, being like, "Cool, bro,
Yeah.
not a problem." And in a friendship thing, I might be like that, but it's not. Like I'm here to make you like better, and that's out of order. And if you really want to, like everybody else, why am I getting pushed to the bottom of the list?
Yeah.
Like you know, and so it was important for me to say that, and then you turned up at 10 o'clock the next day because you move things around, and that's like quite a common.
And also, I had a massive takeaway from it, and was like, I really liked that you did that because it kept me accountable. And then we ended up talking about lines and like, okay, you don't let people take the piss out of you.
But it's hard, right? There's that discomfort again, which is basically at some point you've got to do the awkward thing, which is basically another thing that I try and specialize in is essentially like conflict in communication. You basically got to sit there and be like, "Hey man, I'm really upset with you.
Yeah.
Like I'm upset how you acted yesterday, and I lost loads of sleep about it last night. Like who taught us how to do that?
Yeah.
Like no one's taught
No.
unless you've got like dreamy parents. All of our parents are dreamy, but like in their own way, like we weren't taught that. And so to basically sit there and be like, you really upset me. Yeah. It's really hard. It's
super hard.
And you know, I try and work on like my marriage all the time, and sometimes I'm good, and sometimes like I think, you know, my wife gets annoyed with me because I probably play like the silent treatment. I probably just go a bit like, you know, how we all do in like relationships, kind of go a bit passive aggressive, being like, I'm not going to, you know, and I'm trying to be better at basically being like, hey, and I don't want to talk about this right now, and let's talk about it in 5 minutes instead when I'm feeling better. You know, all this, you know, it's trying to eliminate these kind of like natural people pleasing tendencies. Everyone benefits from it. Like, you know, I would have been annoyed with you, which would have then fractured our trust.
Yeah, and the next session wouldn't have been as good.
And they wouldn't have been as good. And I, in back of my mind, I'd been just like, fuck this guy.
Yeah, exactly. No, I love it. I learned loads from it. And it really impacted certain decisions that we've made doing this, as you know, which we don't have to talk about. But it did, because I was like, no, there's lines that are getting crossed, and I'm just like, yeah, cool, man, all good. You know?
But it's super, like, you know, like I got a message yesterday from somebody I'm working with, and you know, after the first session, fed back being like, it'd be great if we could focus on this and maybe talk like this and kind of structure it like this. I was like, cool.
Yeah.
I'm not upset.
Yeah.
You know, that's amazing. I need that. You know, there's no conflict in that. No. It's great to know what you want, and we can totally do that.
Yeah.
It's net positive, but we think it's not net positive, right? We think that it's going to cause, like, people are going to fall out with us, all that sort of stuff. And it only happens because it basically, a couple of those small things happens, like a breaking of a boundary, and then it, like, over like 6 months to a year, it like forms into like an abscess, and then we explode, and like a friendship falls apart. And then you try and be like, where did that start? You'd be like, oh, they ate all they drank all my Dr. Pepper. I mean, yeah. Well, you know, like something like really banal. You're a bit like, wait, how is this? And it's just like, it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah. So I spend a lot of time on communication and how we communicate. And
yeah, it's interesting. What are the hardest things about doing the job that you do, like being a coach, and an entrepreneur or a business person or whatever?
I think like I've got better at over the years, but essentially being able to switch off. Yeah, it's not my job to make someone feel better. Like I'm not responsible for your feelings. And if I put all the weight on basically being responsible to make somebody's life better, that's like too much. Okay. I'm there so I had to create a lot of like new ways of thinking about things. You know, because lots of people cry in front of me, and I could say that, you know, crying is a bad thing, when actually it's a great thing. Like everyone feels better after a cry, and nobody like feels bad after a cry. It's mad. Yeah. So why do we think that crying is a bad thing? So that's, you know, so sort of trying to create a bit of boundaries in terms of, you know, I'm here to help people, but actually the hard work comes from the other side. And you kind of hope, you know, if I get too attached to like wins, oh, that person's like now doing this. You know, everyone's on a slightly different time scale. So there's some people I work with for a period of time and then they disappear. And then 2 years later, they'll be like, I did the thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, amazing. I just had to work on it for like 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas I could get attached being like, no, I want it needs to happen in like 2 months. So putting undue pressure on myself to basically be a facilitator of like a change or a transformation, I guess.
Right. Okay.
I think it's like, and then I think running a business, what's the hard part of running a business? I mean, I love it. I think it's the best thing you can do.
It's a unique business. It's like, do you know what I mean? Because
yeah, but I've done like I think I've done 6 or 7 businesses now, all really, really different.
Right.
So I've done loads. I was like, you know,
you had a PR company.
It was a creative agency. That was the big thing in my 30s.
Right.
And then, but also like had a nightclub, I had like events business, nightclub promotion business, had a clothing company.
I forgot to mention, is what was pretty cool about when me and Tom met. We had our first call and, you know, like an introduction call, and we explored the idea of what this was and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And I was like, all right, man, like, I'm going away this weekend. Just give me a few days to think about it. You know, I'm actually going to download festival. And Tom went, oh, I'm DJing there. I was like, what? And then the day after, randomly,
I saw you in the
we actually met. This is the weirdest thing.
Yeah, it's mad. Yeah, the DJ, there's a big music. So I've been a DJ for like 20 years.
Yeah.
At relatively like high levels of like success, I guess.
There you go.
So that's kind of, so I've done loads of different like businesses. And it's about trying to, I think that it's the hustle nature of it, basically. Yeah. You know, it's, I think the best thing about like trying to do your own business is a bit of a quest for authenticity, as in I think greater success comes in life when you're your most authentic self. And to bring like AI into the conversation, I think we kind of need to get to that quicker. That makes sense. That I think when the realities of what is real or fake is going to get more blurred with AI, who we actually are and what we stand for and what we like and what we're interested in, we need to get to a lot quicker. And we need to kind of let go of a lot of these funny things that our brain says and this desire to maybe fit in.
Okay.
When actually, like the most success I've had in life, when I've slowly removed my fear of like judgment and wanted to maybe like blend in. When actually I don't think that that's like the right way of going about it. It's a lifelong. It's like a work in progress for me.
Of course.
So is that why you said that we're going to have more coaches because of AI? You feel like there's like
no, I don't think we'll have more coaches because of AI. I think it's an emerging industry.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were doing a full circle there.
No, I wasn't doing a full circle. I think
it would have been incredible.
I thought it was. I thought I was locked in. I was like, oh, he's doing it.
Here I am. He's doing going back to the beginning.
Yeah. It was all about AI all along.
I think it's like an emerging thing. I think like therapy is an established thing. I don't think therapy like is often lots of people I work with are in therapy and they like it, but then they get to a position where they'll be like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
And that's essentially when a coach needs to step in, because a therapist will not be like, now what? You know, that's not how they're trained. And so, so I think just coaching is growing all that stuff. It's just fairly unregulated. So if anybody was curious about ever like hiring a coach, and make sure that they've gone like through qualifications and certification and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I meet lots of coaches who say that, you know, you can say anything, you know, hey, I'm a coach.
Yeah.
But you know, I went to university, you know, qualified and all that sort of stuff. So be careful, sort of, you know, if you were to ever curious about a coach, it's always interesting to kind of be like, where did you learn it? You know, where did it come by? And lots of people be like, well, you know, I've lived for 20 years, so I'll be a good coach.
My perception of it's certainly changed. I think I came into it almost wanting you to give me the solutions of what to do and how to do it.
Wouldn't that be nice?
It would have been amazing. But it's almost better because
you wouldn't have done them, man.
You go on your own journey, but you're just installing the tools of how to do it and where to go on that journey and what actually matters to you and stuff like that. And I feel like that's why it's probably going to emerge, because more people.
You wouldn't have listened to me.
No, maybe
you wouldn't
not.
have, because I'd be like, do that, and you'd be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then the phone would have ended and you wouldn't have done it because like
Yeah.
you'd have been like, I don't want to do that, or it doesn't feel like it's right, or
Don't feel
I'm scared
right.
of it, or it just doesn't work. Honestly, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And it'll be, you know, it might take you years to get to those things, but you have years. It's fine. I
Hopefully,
don't think
yeah.
a lot of these things that, you know, we don't need to rush these things. It's a lot better to be strategic about it than rather just a bit like rah,
Yeah.
which is sometimes what we do. We get a bit like rah, just like fuck, just, you know, we like sometimes do really mad things. We basically like flip the table and just like change everything
Probably
in
at
our life at
certain
one
ages
go.
as well. You get to a certain milestone and you're like, shit, need to make change.
Everything got to change, I gotta move and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I gotta, everything's got to go and all that sort of stuff. And I guess like it's a bit like, yeah, that's cool to do, definitely into like that energy, but let's kind of be a bit more strategic about it.
Yeah.
And you know, like where are we going with it? How do we do it? How do you want to feel about it? All that sort of stuff.
Mm.
So yeah,
It's been super interesting. Learning
Huh?
more. Hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's been great.
I made you cry.
No, not yet. Yeah, I guess. We could. Mate, that's been great. If people want to learn more about you, like, that'd be super interesting. How would people do that?
Got a website.
Have you? Look at you.
Look at that. Which is my name, tompinchard.com. You
Yep,
can
there'll
find
be
out
a-
about me.
It'll be in the show description if people do want to
Frank Brown, you can just like, and that's just kind of just a little bit about me and all the different like services I offer.
Mm-hmm.
What else did I say? I'm on Instagram.
Yep.
My Instagram is basically just my life based. It's not like filtered through coaching.
Okay.
A lot of my dinner stuff on there. My dinners actually is launching as there's no like brand name for these dinners, but they launch. It's going to like officially launch as a brand called Herd,
Oh, wow.
and that's launching in mid-February. So when people say they went to a dinner, they actually went, "Oh, I went to like Herd. It was amazing."
I like it.
And that's where people will be able to sign up for it and actually like come to one.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody is listening to this and wants to come and lives in London, they can just literally message me on Instagram and be like, I heard this. Can I come?
Mm.
I heard this. See what you
Nice.
did there. That
Yeah.
was
See what I
pretty
did?
good.
That's
That
clever.
was nice. That was nice.
That's clever.
You know, it's not like an exclusive club or anything. You know, it's super open. So there's always that. You need to come to one. You both need to come to one.
Yeah,
of which
keen.
are both quivering.
Team.
Yeah, I'd be scared, but I would do it.
Would you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I reckon I'd go to one of these. That'd be funny.
What do you think you'd be nervous about?
Well, just the whole idea. I don't go to any dinners, so just think I'd get food on my clothes and say the wrong thing to someone.
Yeah, that's
Essentially, which I think is probably quite common.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the main
Yeah.
thing going. That's interesting. Yeah, like everyone says something different, being like, "Oh, yeah, will I wear the right clothes or will I make a mess? Say something inappropriate?" or
Absolutely,
something
yeah,
like that.
yeah, probably the
So-
number one things. But then after sort of when we talk about it and thinking about the good conversations you have when you're on a plane or in your underpants, maybe it's the one. Hey,
Yeah,
I had a bit of a baptism of fire with being in comfortable places when I was younger because I got a job as like a sales rep and I was quite young still.
yeah,
So it was going into shops and having to be and introduce yourself and present product and to kind of do a bit of sales stuff, which for when I've been like 20, 21, 22 was bloody hard, you know?
yeah.
A lot of the time they don't want you there. They're like, come on, man, we're busy. And you got to be like, hi, Davey, like, nice to meet you. I think that was a massive thing for me because I'm okay with things like that, give or take. Like, yeah, I'd be a little nervous coming and meeting a load of people. I always get imposter syndrome with everything, but I can like get through it and I would be okay. But yeah, I'm keen to do one. Not the same one. So that'd be strange.
I think that's the thing about if you ever run your own business. I think that's the hardest thing because you have to do that.
Yeah.
You know, you can't
do it daily
If you don't know,
sometimes.
if people don't know you're for sale, they can't buy you.
Yeah.
So you have to. That's the greatest thing about maybe trying to do your own thing. By the way, like running your own business, that could be like, you know, being an athlete, you know, whatever, representing you are the brand or whatever that may be. But you have to then do stuff. You have to be filmed. You have to talk. You have to tell your friends about it. You know, it forces you. Otherwise, you won't get paid.
Yeah.
And that's not fun.
Has that got harder for you over the years?
what's that?
Well, Tom just pretty much described what you do for a job a lot of the time, which is, you know, being filmed, being the brand, liaising with sponsors.
Has it got harder?
Yeah.
No, easier.
Easier.
I mean, yeah, easier.
There you
But
go.
then, like, the ridiculousness of it all is highlighted by age, I would
Yeah.
say. But I think that's in anything.
Yeah.
I think that's in questioning what you're doing is pretty normal, isn't it?
Mm.
I never used to, and probably do more now. But I wouldn't say it's got harder. Elements get easier and elements get harder, don't they? Of everything, don't they? I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, under the whole like uncertainty thing, if you're used to being filmed or if you're used to being at a competition and all that sort of stuff, there's a semblance of, you can see the strands of it working. So you're a bit like, I know what's going to happen here. You turn up to a competition with loads of people watching you, a bit like, yeah, normal. Whereas like somebody who's never done it before would be like, you know, like really sick and nauseous and all that sort of stuff. So it makes sense to you where you're a bit like, yeah, it's fine. If I've got to do a demo for a product, it's fine.
I think something that people don't think about is that it's like a normal job doesn't run out necessarily, or some do, but some of them have shelf lives, and that's probably a not nice thing. You know, I don't have to deal with it as much as someone else does. That's maybe, you know, like a World
doing
Cup race.
flips
That's
and
very
whatever,
difficult.
yeah.
It's super hard.
Yeah.
Or being a crazy, you know, being any one of these athletes, it looks effortless, and it's definitely not. I'm glad that I haven't built myself around being super crazy.
Yeah.
That'd be a wild place to be nearing your 40s and being like, what do I do?
Yeah.
I feel it to a certain extent, but not the same as I'm sure many people do.
Interesting.
I would view that as all good. There'll be something else. You know, I think with our parents, I know we've got to stop. I know with our parents' generation, it's very much just like we've been brought up to maybe be like, you do one thing. I haven't done one thing. I've done like 7 things.
Yeah.
And some of those 7 things, fairly averagely done it.
Yeah.
And only now do I think I'm probably the best at something that I do. But, you know, I've been doing this for 7 years. Is this it? Is this all I do now? Like, because technically I could, even with advancements in technology, maybe this is kind of, you know, maybe, you know, this is fairly AI proof or whatever. I don't really know if I want that. Like, I want to be something different again.
Yeah.
Like, I want to churn another chapter, maybe, you know, I don't know.
I hear you. I just reckon to be, let's pick someone that we know, Travis Pastrana, LeBron James, to be one of them and to be paid the amount that you get paid, you have to just put everything in. And everyone's on that spectrum, I guess. But like, how hard would it be? Travis Pastrana reaches the end.
Yeah.
The amount he gets paid to be Travis Pastrana.
yeah.
And then he has to be Travis Pastrana Mark II. What's that? That's like, what is it?
I would
Software
say in all of
engineer
those like those big sports guys, it's a lot more transparent that they're behind the scenes. They are being, you know, they've got so. I love basketball. I know so much about basketball, and then like, you know, LeBron is probably, he obviously basketball is his craft, but at this point, you know, it's almost overwhelming how much he does. And I think behind the scenes, any footballer and all that sort of stuff, the system's now in place to basically, when they come out, they have 4 other businesses.
Yeah. I don't think financially isn't really what I mean.
No, absolutely. But I think, in terms of what they're going to do, I think you can start to see later on in their careers whether they're going to be presenters, they're going to go away.
For some though.
For some. But I think it's probably harder if you say like, League 2, League 3, where the money is,
where the majority live. When you think
Yes.
about it, like LeBron is a absolute.
he's a media mogul. I mean, he's like, he's beyond.
That's insane. There's only one in the last. Well, there's only ever been one.
Yeah.
And then you think there's all of those other athletes
Yes.
that have played during his career, and all of them have made loads of money, and all of them have got to the end and been like, whoa, stare into the abyss.
Yeah.
I imagine like.
Absolutely, and without the right support, you know, you could easily spend that cash pretty quickly.
Yeah,
and
I
often
reckon
there are
that'd
many
be quite
stories
hard.
of it. Yeah, cool.
I can't even remember what the question was. We could probably talk for quite a long time. I
Yeah,
reckon.
we could. But we're not allowed.
Got to go.
Just
Oh, we've got memory card issues. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us.
Tom Pinchard, everybody.
Peace and love.
Like and subscribe. Mate, what an episode.
Brilliant. I thought you were really great, Davey.
Mate, and I thought you were even better.
Thanks, dude.
Better
Thanks,
than
dude.
normal.
Oh, cheers.
Hey, how about we tell our lovely podcast community to hit subscribe here.
Yeah,
Click on the video on Ollie's face.
that's right.
Click on the video on my face.
Yeah.
And follow us at The Ride Companion on Instagram.
They can like and comment as well.
Please do.
I'm going to try and get this energy and I'm going to bring it into next week.
Let's fast forward to next week's episode.
Done.